just to add on to that as well, I think everything you've said is spot on. Just to emphasize the problem-solving analytical abilities is very important. That's every project I've been on is just one puzzle after another, and just figuring out how to solve the puzzle is huge. And being able to communicate that as well. I mean, the people you're working with on a daily basis are people as well, and so they want to like you. I mean, they want to. The better they can work together with you, the smoother the relationship is, the more successful the project is going to be, in my experience. So having those communication and presentation skills is very key. Being articulate, I just, which I'm not being right now, is kind of like that as well. And then one thing, being a self-starter, being motivated on your own is key. Because I don't really have a boss. I kind of have a boss, but not really. So all my projects are kind of on my own, figuring out what has to be done next, what are the timelines, when does that get done. Which is, not someone watching over me every step of the way, making sure I'm getting my job done. So making sure I'm self-motivated is key to being successful on a daily basis. And also on the business development point as well. I'm not a salesperson. I never was. But as I've kind of grown up in the consulting industry here, I'm getting to the point where it's kind of an expectation that I start developing a little bit of business. Still not comfortable with it, but you develop these skills, you gain expertise in specific areas. Mine is IT focused, a specific IT area. And so you get comfortable enough with it where you can talk to anyone about it, and it's not really selling, it's just talking about the issue, and it pretty much sells itself, and you identify a problem or you don't. So to me, it was something frightening at first, but it's become more of a natural.
I'll just add that I think being well-rounded is a huge thing, and that can mean just being active in a lot of different campus activities, different clubs, leadership in some of those clubs. Even part-time work during school is stuff that we look for. Just you'll be working with people from all over the world, and even if you're just working locally, you might have people on your team that have different ways of doing things, different interests. So the more you can kind of be open to different viewpoints and different ways of working and different motivators of other people, and figure out how that how you can work well regardless, and kind of capitalize on your differences, so to speak. So I think being well-rounded is really important as well.
Kind of build off that. Let's that was very helpful, Terry. Thank you. What sort of experiences can these students kind of take advantage of to help prepare them for such a career? We talk about getting involved in extracurricular activities. Obviously, this incorporates internships. It could be, would leadership positions work? Would research experience? What is it in particular that would really benefit them to build a portfolio, especially in a competitive, market and economy?
So maybe I'll address that one. I think I really envy your position, just being in school and having so many opportunities and being able to explore everything you'd like to. I think part of that sort of exploratory phase, you sort of determine, there's some things I like, and for some people it's like, I want to do business stuff and I want to join business clubs. For some people it's like, I want to ride bikes, or I want to do dancing or something, And so we all have our different passions and interests. And I think those individuals who really show sort of their leadership potential by either organizing groups or taking leadership roles in groups that they're really passionate about, where they can show, hey, you know what, I was not only a member of this organization, but I delivered some sort of impact. I changed something, some sort of measurable impact I've made for this organization. And you know what? It aligns with something I really care about. I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is also sort of academic and intellectual sort of curiosity, excelling, I think, in your classes and showing sort of that intellectual aptitude to say, you know what, if I'm given a situation where I don't really know the answer, I can be a self-starter and I can figure it out. I can find the right resources to do it. And if you find yourself sort of that type of person, that you open up the newspaper and you read the news and you're like, oh, I wonder, how I could change this sort of issue. For example, as we've seen sort of malnutrition issues in some sort of sub-Saharan African areas, right? And what could I do differently, or how would I structure an NGO to solve this? or you're driving into work, you're like, I wonder how I could improve traffic flow or something like that. You're always thinking of different ways you can do things, and sort of harboring that intellectual curiosity. I think consulting might be a good fit for you.
So, any other additions?
Yeah, I have a little to add. You might not like what I'm going to say either. I think if I were in your position, I would, as best one can, narrow what's the area of expertise that I want to have, which then is the area that you're going to be consulting in. So if you're in a graduate program and you have a thesis or dissertation to write, you should leverage the fact that you have to do that and develop an area of expertise that others might have interest in. So if it had to do with, I don't know, a new architecture for IT systems, or it had to do with understanding teams, that then is the level of expertise that you have, and you should develop that. In our firm, it would be very important that you had experience in organizations. We would say, how can you consult about organizations? We haven't really worked in any. And if you want to do what I do, which is coach leaders, I think you have to pay some dues to do that, because this is the part where I thought you might not like it. Because as a young person, you don't have any credibility with a 50-year-old executive. What are you going to tell him that he or she doesn't already know? And I think that group makes up their mind in about 5 minutes who they will work with. So you have to pay attention to building your level of expertise, and then as you gain experience, you have more credibility and you leverage that credibility.
I totally agree with Joe, but I also want to give you some hope out of that too. And the thing that I would say is that your ignorance, and when I say ignorance, I mean it in the true sense of the word, meaning you're without knowledge as opposed to stupidity, which is something entirely different. Your ignorance is really your asset if you can be very comfortable with it, meaning that it spurs the need to ask questions in a healthy way. That may not be the kind of thing that a leader is looking for to do leadership consulting. Obviously, you're not going to drop into that and just say, well, I can ask the question why, therefore I make a good consultant. But to get comfortable with your own ignorance, which means that you're not trying to pretend that you are the domain expert when you're just fresh out of college, or even 2 or 3 years of experience, may not provide you with enough background to say, I have domain expertise. There are consultants who are asked to come in because they have specific knowledge. There are also consultants that are asked to come in to augment staff and to help out in areas where they have the ability to learn from the other people on the team. And that's probably going to be more of the situations where you're going to get the opportunities to pay your dues and be part of an organization with a good chance to grow. So absolutely agree, you're not going to come in with instant credibility, but if you recognize that that is something that you have on your agenda to build, then you will work hard to